It's a good thing. And Pope Francis was the good news for a while until he wasn't.
Whoa. And welcome to another show of the Ouchcast.
Ouchies.
Enrique.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good. You know, being here is weird.
Back in Undercity?
Yeah, Doyle's not there. George is not there. Renee is somewhere out there, and
Isaac's right there.
yeah, I mean Boba Fett's still here though. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's off that way. Sorry, guys. So, as you can tell, we're recording here. Peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
It's a Wednesday, weekday. We decided to record today because there's been some things happening, which is the Popapa has passed away.
Yes, he has. Now, let me ask you this: like, how important is the Pope to your life?
None whatsoever.
Right. I was gonna say the same thing for me, but
Like, I'm not Catholic, so doesn't affect me. I'm not, like I've talked about before, I'm not any organized religion, so it doesn't really affect me. But from what I've read about the gentleman and what I've heard about the gentleman, he seemed to be a very nice guy. And the fact that he called out Trump and, you know, what's his name? Whatever fake name he's using, JD Vance now. He's okay in my book. The fact that he actually kept trying to make changes to the Catholic religion by basically outlining some new things that were a little taboo, more acceptance, more, you know, open arms. He's okay in my book. What about you?
so same. I think I've mentioned before on the podcast that my whole thing was I wasn't like, my family's Catholic, and my older brother, my older sister were baptized. I wasn't. Now my sister is a Christian, and you know, obviously when we talk about Christians, we think, oh, that includes Catholics, and to some degree, yeah, but they're very different because of their belief systems and sort of who they used to worship. So I can say with certainty that our family isn't really moved by the Catholic Church anymore. I mean, my mom and my dad probably still.
Yeah.
However, like you said, the Pope Francis seems like a very interesting kind of topic because of a lot of the things that he did that really made him more a pope for the world.
Yeah.
And so, like, I really loved how recently, like one of the last things he did before he died was, like, you know, I mean, I don't know what the tone of it was, but I mean, people like to say that he scolded Vance. I'm sure it was more of a, like, just a general preaching, telling him about empathy and to look out for the poor. Which, here's the thing, like Pope Francis was always known for advocacy for poor.
Yeah.
And like the marginalized.
When he was a cardinal, he would sneak out at night and feed the poor. You know, it was like something he was not supposed to do because it was like, oh, no, you know, Padre, don't do that. But he would still do it because he thought, I don't know if he did it as a pope, but I know he did it as a high-ranking cardinal or bishop or whatever it was. I don't know. I don't know the rankings, sergeant, colonel, whatever. And he was a breath of fresh air compared to the Pope Palpatine, or what was his name?
I don't remember what.
Benedict Arnold? No, Benedict.
Honestly, I don't know. One I remember the one before him, which was something John something.
Oh, John Paul II.
Yeah, and he was kind of well known as well.
We've outlived three, which is John Paul II, Benedict Directic Palpatine, whatever his name was, who, by the way, was a Nazi in the Nazi youth. By the way,
no, really,
he was in the Nazi youth.
Yikes.
He claimed that basically he was forced into it because of the politics of the day and the nation where he was, and he says, you know, he never really, went along with the message. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
But
so one of the major things that I think that Francis did was he acknowledged and addressed the sexual abuse crisis that happened the past 50 years and that was swept. Obviously, it came to a head like in the 80s and 90s, but most of the clergy really acted like it didn't until they couldn't avoid it because it was just the messaging was so loud. But it wasn't until Pope Francis really came out that he started acknowledging it. He took like steps to address it. Like he abolished the pontifical secrecy over abuse. So in other words, he made it that people above were not encouraged to be quiet about it, which before they were. Everything
Right.
was kind of handled in-house, and they avoided, sending people to the police. They usually just ended up moving priests around instead of like holding them accountable. And
Yeah.
under his watch, that he ended up having more strict guidelines against it, and to avoid that secrecy.
Right.
Also, one of the more hot topic button issues that he recently had was, well, right now what's going on with with immigration and refugees. I mean, refugees, big deal. Always has been, but more so now since the October 7th attack from Palestine, or from
Hamas.
Israel to or Hamas. Sorry, yeah,
Hamas to Israel.
to
Yeah.
Israel, and then of course the Israeli response to Palestine. Lots of refugees, and so he went out of his way many times in order to acknowledge it and encourage Israel to
Acknowledge me.
yeah, he called for rights to be respected, for their needs to be met. He also encouraged for parishes to open their doors to migrants and refugees, to provide them shelter and support, which the church has always been known. I mean, the whole word
What it's supposed to
sanctuary.
be. It's supposed to be.
Well, sanctuary comes from the word for
Sanctimonious.
sanctimonious. What does sanctimonious mean, anyways? I mean, I've been called sanctimonious, but I don't know what it
My
means.
God. Moving on. No.
So anyway, sanctuary is essentially like, but I mean, it has political implications. If you claim sanctuary in a church, I mean, the church is supposed to be a place where you can, by all accounts, be safe. I mean, but now in recent times, now even like the ICE can go into the church and pull you out of there.
Let's not get started on the fashion. I mean, in the United States.
But that's the thing; it's all connected right now.
It's a circle.
The dark times. Yes,
It's a circle.
It's a circle. The dark times, and all these things. Any sort of good news that we can find, is a good thing. And Paul.
And we're back. Sorry about that, folks. The camera went, and now it's, and then
Now, if Angel's
It was actually-
editing skills are worth a lick of salt, then you probably won't even notice it on your end, and we're just kind of bringing attention to it. But there we go
again. So yeah, that's why I hate everybody. Oh, hey, how's it going? So if you've noticed now, it's like the third take. Here, give me the gimbal.
no, I'm going to say it again. If Angel's worth his salt, you will not notice, and the only reason you'll notice is because we've like brought attention to it. But
No, it's gonna be noticeable because
Yeah,
it's
for
been
real.
reshot like 3 times. So this is what we usually use to frame everything. It's a DJI gimbal. Okay, it's a whatever it's called, but it's usually pretty good. It's great for stabilization and it's an amazing little machine.
Well, it's been working all this time.
It's been working great. We've been using it this whole time, but for some odd reason, it just crapped out on us. It just went boom.
it's got a little control nub here, and
It's got a sucker.
it's got a circle, and if you move it around, it goes yoop 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 yoop.
You've been watching those Instagram films a little too much there.
I'll tell you,
Repent, sinner, repent.
I'll tell you what. When you've made a big decision in your life to be single, the content on your phone is not for everybody. Oh man, I need an outlet. Speaking of outlet, let's talk about the Pope again. I mean, let's continue because I need to be saved. Somebody save me.
Now, I told Isaac, like, if he's ready for religion and all that, I was going to take him out to learn about religion. We've been trying to get that stupid podcast going, but with everything going on, it's always like put a pause in it. Plus, we can't get. Doyle was supposed to do it, but with his whole move and everything, that went out the window.
Yeah, this is a shame because some of my favorite conversations we've had on air have been when Doyle and I have kind of like talked about
Theologically.
Well, I like when because Doyle's really good about kind of reading the room, where he will talk about religion.
Yeah.
But he won't bombard you with it to the point where you feel like you're being preached to. Instead, I felt like it was informative and interesting in there, and there was room for whatever rebuttal I might have or whatever questions I might have. and it sort of kind of reminded me of my brother-in-law Eric. God rest his soul. A lot of the conversations that I would have with him about religion were similar to the ones I had with Doyle. So it felt like I was learning something. Because at the end of the day, I know where I stand when it comes to religion. My whole thing is that I believe that religion as an institution is kind of lost its place in our society. Once upon a time, they were the ones responsible for special education and for community outreach, and they still do those things. But mind you, the world is so large now that a community has to be a certain size in order to really benefit from it, and they don't. I mean, the Jewish people have it kind of correct. Their synagogues are in small little places, and their neighborhoods. And I'm talking about the more Orthodox Jews, for example, people like in Culver City and Burbank and those areas, you can see when like the from Friday to Saturday, those areas kind of shut down because a lot of them go into into their fasting period, which, they don't go out and they don't eat and they don't use electronics and they pretty much just stay home and, live out their small, more smaller family lifestyles. And then on Sunday nights, like it just kind of bursts open. They go to church, they go out, and you can see them at the restaurants. And I feel like that smaller kind of community thing still has value, but unfortunately Catholics, Christians, unless you're involved in those small little communities, I don't know that they really benefit us. Instead, now it's become more of a political kind of arm. You know what I'm saying? And you can see it in the way people have used religion for the longest time. That's not a new thing, but it feels more dangerous now.
I'm looking at you, Spanish Inquisition.
So, anyways, I think
the witch trials, no, I'm kidding.
The witch trials, yeah, for real. I was going to say the rich trials.
The rich trials.
The rich trials.
That's coming up next.
Baby, you're a rich man. We were like mixing up our songs here. I'm singing Beatles, and you're going into like
Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh yeah. If I was a rich man.
Did you just say yabba dabba doo?
All day long.
Anyway, I don't know about other religions. I only know the one that I was brought up with was Catholicism, and you can hear that. And it wasn't for me. I mean, I love to have these traditions and stuff, but honestly, I don't know. Isaac, from the little experience you've had with religion, what do you think about it as an outsider? Because I know you're not brought up in a religious home. Your mom is atheist. I'm agnostic, or what'd you say was paganism, or what is it? Whatever.
Pagans.
You said it was something else, but not agnostic. But anyways, what's your take on religion as a whole?
As in whole? What do you mean?
Well,
in all?
Does
overall?
religion have a place in your life? Do you feel, and do you have a place in it?
I don't think so. I don't know. Most of it just doesn't seem right. Like, how they talk about how God is like, what is it? How he's like all peace and stuff, right?
But then why does the world suffer so much? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and like what if you don't rejoice, he's gonna punish you, and like they talk about all these like terrible things that they do to people who don't rejoice. So it just kind of seems like, I don't know.
It seems unfair. It seems like. There's a lot of confusion, and in that, absolutely, like if God is as great as he is purported to be, then you would see less inequality, and of course this is where Doyle would probably have some really kind of interesting answer. I think once we did get into this kind of discussion, and I don't want to try to paraphrase him because I'd probably be completely wrong, but I just know that the answers that was given to me in regards to that very, very question, like why, if God is good, why is there so much evil in the world? It really comes down to that, right? Like if God is as all-knowing, then why do bad things happen? That's kind of what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
So then the question, or rather the answer that I've always heard is that it's supposed to be sort of like a response to our ability to have free will and sort of prove ourselves in some way, because supposedly he already knows, like God already knows, like who we are, and which this is the contradictory part. He knows who we are and he knows what we're capable of, and yet we're still capable of letting him down, so much so that we won't be saved. But if he already knows, then what's the point? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's the confusing part to me. Yeah, so I see why you would be confused by that, Isaac. I understand.
Which one of the two was it, Doyle or George, that would say that you need religion because you need morals, and that would set me off? Which one was it?
I don't know, but that...
You know what I'm saying?
I've been seeing
Remember
a
that?
lot. Yes, I do, and I forget who, and I would love to find out.
Yeah.
The thing about... Okay, so, I mean, I don't mean to talk shit, George, because, you know, we joke around a lot.
I do.
This is one of the things that I remember. Do you remember when we got into a talk about, like, UFOs, and suddenly he started talking about, like, angels being aliens, and that
Yeah.
just kind of like, come on, bruh, really? Anyways, to your point, I've actually been watching these really great debates between people like George Peterson. Is it George Peterson?
Would you say they were mass?
You know that Jordan Peterson. Sorry.
Oh, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson and a few other debating that very idea of, you know, do Western values rely heavily on Christianity and religion? Right. And Jordan Peterson says yes. He is one of those right now, like, where he is absolutely for it, and the debates get very heated. But I saw some really interesting things that in regards to, like, you don't need to have God, Christianity, or any of that in order to have morals, because there is a sort of baseline of what is good and what is evil, and you don't need a religion to tell you that. But the debate says that most of our morals are based around, or rather our Western morals are based around Christianity. But you know what, dude? You can go all the way back to Socrates and Plato and see where there was no Christianity there, and yet they were already touching on those ideas of morality.
Right.
You know, like very fundamental, like, truths of what is good and what is evil. Things that we, you know, kind of know instinctively.
Yeah. Take the Native Americans, or, you know, they had their set of morals. Every civilization has had a set of morals. They're not religious based, or I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass. They probably are, and I don't even know it. But like I said, I was brought up in a Catholic home, but I'm not Catholic whatsoever. I don't preach it. I don't teach it to my kids, but I teach them morals. Don't steal. Treat others how you would like to be treated. So I don't know if that's case in point where you need religion in order to have morals. You could have morals without having to have religion down your throat. Just like you could be a politician and not be corrupt. But apparently that's not true anymore.
Yeah. So, you know, I always like to kind of like do all these little quick like searches and researches. And unfortunately, a lot of the answers that you get if you ask that question online, you get them from Christian institutions. And so right off the bat, there's going to be some bias there, because their whole thing is going to be that a lot of our morals, as we know them today, are heavily reliant on Christianity as a fundamental kind of truth, because they accept that, you know, it was like Jesus who, and of course, like even farther back, Moses, who brought in, you know, these laws into our land and stuff. But I mean, dude, there's examples of other I guess societies kind of coming to the same conclusions. I mean, the Japanese, you know, grew up isolated from Christianity. They had some Christianity, you know, back in the 1600s. They did, but
it was a sect.
Well, before that, you know, the thing that they were relying on is Shintoism and Buddhism, and all that stuff, like, was without like any real influence from Christianity, and they had a lot of the same ideas about what was good and what was bad. Sure, you know, they had some cultural differences that would lead to some very interesting differences when it came to, like, for example, the sense of self-sacrifice. Like, the Japanese they still are to some degree, but they were definitely very hardcore. You know, like, say back around the time of Jesus Christ, like these were people who, if you shamed your family, it was accepted for you to gain back your honor by killing yourself, and it was accepted by the society as a moral, like, imperative, something like that.
Right.
You wouldn't find that in a Christian-based nation. Now, you know, you go to like, you know, Muslim communities, and you see them stoning people because, like, their daughters, you know, somehow shame their families, and our outrage comes from a Western perspective. We're like, no, that's wrong. Again, I don't know. I don't want to put that on the feet of, because they're not Christian and they're heathens, therefore that's why they're evil. I don't think that's fair.
Heathen. Yeah, no, like so there's Christianity, there's Muslim, and there's Jewish. Those are the three main ones, right?
Yeah.
Like the main ones. Okay, so then after that you have like what is it? Like Buddhist, Mormon. Mormon is a Christianity?
Mormonism is Christian.
Yeah, because it's kind of like Jehovah's Witness, where they took a seed of the original and then they went off.
Oh
and did
yeah,
their
I mean,
thing, right?
they essentially believe that America was the New Jerusalem, and they believe that the prophecies were all fulfilled here in America.
Dum 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 dum.
Exactly. So Mormonism is Christianity, but after a fashion, as the saying would go.
Yeah, I that reminds me. I still want to see Book of Mormon, the musical. I've been dying to watch that. I get ads on Facebook and I get all excited and I click because I think they're gonna be here, and it's like, oh no, it's an ad for Broadway in Manhattan. It's like, why am I getting that? It's ridiculous. But anyway, so I have some notes here that Doyle actually did for us. Shout out Doyle. And
Doyle.
He's talking about irreligions, non-religions, or faith in themselves. Which is irreligion is the absence. Well, that's what I'm trying to read here.
Sorry.
Irreligion is the absence of rejection or religion beliefs or practices, encompassing a wide range of viewpoints, including atheism, agnostics, religion of skepticism, rationalism, secularism, and non-religious spirituality. So that's, I guess I don't know. Translate for me.
I just think that we talked about it last time, that there was for example there's atheist, and then there's being a deist it's a deist. A deist is somebody who believes in,
With a big D.
a big D. They believe in they believe that that there is a higher power. But that church and that a religion doesn't encompass it in any way. And it would make sense. Like, look, let's look at a higher power, like an ordered universe, for example, because one of the earliest sort of proofs for God is the clockwork universe, is what we would call it. Essentially, you can observe the universe and see how on every level, from the smallest things to the larger things, have analogies to each other. So, for example, the cells, when you look at a cell, looks strangely like the way the planets revolve around the sun. We have like a central nucleus that are, through some force that we haven't been able to name, have like these protons and stuff that rotate around it in some way. They have some sort of like magnetism to each other. And then you go higher up. Essentially, you find an ordered universe on every level. And because there's an ordered universe, it's sort of proof that there was some design behind it, right?
Right.
Now, as a deist, you could say, okay, well, there's your proof that there's a God, but Christianity doesn't understand it. How could we know the mind of God? How could we truly know the mind of this like all-powerful sort of being?
Ask an evangelical.
Well, the idea is the answer is always going to be that we are created after the image of that powerful being, and therefore our connection to it has to be, we're basically an analogy to them, in the same way that a cell is an analogy to the galaxy and how they rotate around each other. Therefore, we also in some way encompass some of the characteristics of a God, and in the sense that people like to say that God has some form, some function, and we were created after His image for that reason. I don't know, man. It gets super weird to me there. I think if there was a powerful being and it created us, it was by accident. There was no intentionality behind it. We were just another cog in the machine that happened. I mean, I think it's even compatible with evolution in the sense that, you set some things in motion and you watch the direction that it go. I don't think that this powerful being is outside in our universe looking at us and going, okay, well, now this is the part where, Angel creates a podcast. This is a part where,
No, that was a devil did that.
So if you're a deist, then that would be what you would be. You'd be somebody who thinks like, well, there is a God, there is a higher power. We just don't know it. There's no way for us to ever know it.
Yeah, religion is crazy, man. There's so many questions to every single one. Imagine we died tomorrow and then we're all in hell and it's like, sorry, Christians, Catholics, Hindus, you all got it wrong.
We'll all be sitting around this table and be going like, well,
yep,
that happened. So
the only ones that got it right were the Shiites. The rest of you, hell. I don't know. Like, how do you choose?
You don't. And so,
And not sorry to cut you off, but now they politicize it too so much. You know, did you hear what Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Of course,
tweeted?
of course. She's
Such a vile person, cave woman, whatever she is.
I don't. The thing that's so confusing to me now is how somebody like her can still have a platform. How she is able to get away with these sort of things.
Because there's others that think the same way as her.
But that's just it. I don't know that as many people as we like to think, think like her. I just think that there's enough right now, and there's a demoralization of our society. Okay, let me just say this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna backtrack.
No, go ahead.
We always go back to the idea that the social networks are sort of kind of the sort of foundation for some of the evils of our society. I believe that. I think you can find it in the way our kids are behaving in the sort of mass shootings, and there's kind of grab for some fame. I mean, a person who goes out and kills a bunch of people with a gun, they obviously have this intention of wanting some notoriety for it. In their minds, they feel like this is how they're going to get known. There's going to be it's the reason why there's always some manifesto or some proclamation to this thing they're going to do. And social media is sort of an expression of all of that, man.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is a beast of that, right?
Yeah.
She basically has a platform because in this current society, we believe that our voice matters more than it really does. Let's be honest, us in this podcast that we're doing here to you 100 people that watch it, I mean, that's great. God, I wish there were more. But when it comes down to once I leave, after we're done recording, I don't think about this podcast beyond that moment. and mind you, I have sort of the luxury that Angel unfortunately has. He does all of the editing and stuff. So sorry that I'm saying this, and I'm sure, it sounds like an affront to you. But what I'm trying to get at though, in the sense, I mean, I love this podcast. It's an outlet for me. I really enjoy it, and I thank you, Angel, by the way. Truly, you allow me to be part of it, and we can do this because it is therapeutic. But what I mean that I don't think about it is that I don't convince myself that I'm going to change your guys' mind in any meaningful way, that I'm going to say something that's going to make you guys suddenly, start caring about something that I care about. I don't believe that. Maybe if we got 100,000 people, my mind might change, and that's going to be really weird. I don't believe that's going to happen. So point being is this: Marjorie Taylor Greene unfortunately does have those people that
she has no compassion. Like I've never seen anything where she has any compassion towards anyone whatsoever. It's just spewing hatred.
You are a rude, terrible person.
She does it because she gets instant validation from a core small group of people. She's just one voice, and all it takes is a few 100,000 people to make her feel like her voice truly does matter. When, mind you, we really number in the millions, and I guarantee you she doesn't have millions of people that love what she does. She probably has hundreds of thousands of people that love what she does. But that's a drop in the hat of the true sentiment. When people talk about the mainstream, I don't think she's in the mainstream. Unfortunately, it looks like she is because she's got a platform.
Because she's so loud.
And she's so loud, and because she's acknowledged by the way our media sort of eats up that sort of soundbite and amplifies it. That's so that sad. The rest of us who are super annoyed, Doyle would actually probably agree with this. The whole thing about engagement, and the way he explained to us how in social media engagement is everything. Even if it's negative, like we can tell you guys something, and then suddenly you guys start like arguing with us in the comments below.
Ultimate muffin.
Ultimate muffin, yes. And because of that, suddenly there's engagement, and we look more interesting to whoever's going to pay for this thing, that we suddenly are now relevant just because you guys are arguing with us. But that's what you guys do with Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's hundreds of thousands of people who like what she says, and then there's the millions of us who hate it, and because we engage in that side, she's relevant.
It's a form of clickbait.
She's the boogeyman.
Boogie.
And she gets power from it.
You're insulting the boogeyman.
She's going to show up under my bed, and then I'm going to have to stomp her out. No, I'm kidding. I'm not a violent person that way. That's a joke. That is a joke in a bad made joke. So cheers to you, Marjorie.
I'm not editing that out.
Don't. Maybe this camera will fall through like the last two,
right?
And then we can just do another take.
That's why I switched to topic from religion to this because I think the other one was like cursed or something.
Yeah, dude, that's true.
Each time we talk about religion, the camera would.
You know, we're talking about Pope Francis and you know, Dominus Patris, and I don't know any other. But yeah, the camera.
Dominique Patiu.
Suddenly, our camera like kind of was touched by some power. That's really true.
That's trippy.
Oh my gosh! You know, and that reminds me. Okay, so maybe this is foreshadowing for a very future, very near podcast I want to do sometime in the summer. I was talking to Angel through text that I've been seeing a lot of videos of this idea of people being cursed. Okay, essentially, when you die, people will take like a jar and fill it with stuff, including meat, by the way. Meat is one of the ingredients. And they put a picture of you and they bury it in the cemetery. Now, the thing that because I'm doing research on it still. So the thing that I haven't figured out yet is if that bottle is buried in the cemetery of the person that died, or is this just random people doing it in order to curse. So, for example, let's say that I wanted to curse Isaac. Curse you, Isaac. No. What? Then I would just go to some cemetery.
He's like, what the hell
with
did
his
I do?
picture in this mason jar full of like all this weird like concoction along with like meat, and it all rots in there. I put it in the ground of the cemetery.
He puts it in the ground.
And suddenly he's cursed. And to some degree, I think the intention is not only to hurt his life, but ultimately to lead to his death. I think that's the intention of the cemetery.
I know we're going to touch base more on this later, on a like more deep dive.
And it's going to be interesting because I'm super fascinated by this,
let me tell you a story of a lovely lady.
Lovely lady.
No, let me tell you a story that. So by the street where you live in Bell Gardens,
right?
I lived on that street when I was a kid. Remember, I told you, like, across the street, 3 doors down from where you live now.
I love that band.
That house is there.
Kryptonite. Yeah.
Lost them already. Well, 3 to 4 doors down. Okay.
Our attention span right here. That's why, buddy.
Doesn't work. Doesn't work.
That's why we're cool.
Firepower. So anyway, we lived there for, I believe it was at least 6 years, give or take, in Bell Gardens on that street. And we had to move out because the owner of the property sold it, which is too bad because I loved that house. I had a big lot. It was actually 3 units on one lot, but the back unit burnt down, and then the one in the middle was just a studio unit. And then our house, which was a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. So I could play throughout the whole lot, and it was huge. I loved it. We had so many animals and stuff there, and they were the happiest days of my life. But at the age of 8, we had to move out.
That whole little area, also remember there was a little park, not on my street, which is Gotham, because I grew up on Gotham Street, and then the street. Oh, wait a minute, you're talking about Scout.
Yeah, where you're at now. I just didn't want to say the name.
I know, whatever. Scout Avenue. Scout Avenue in Bell Gardens.
Foster Bridge and Scout.
And right behind my house is actually a water basin. That's the area you're talking about, right?
Rio Hondo.
And then right next to that, there's
that riverbed, by the way, when I was a kid, used to get filled.
Oh. Okay.
And in the springtime, we would get infested with mini little frogs like this big
I
throughout the whole area.
When I first moved in, we had a bit of a frog problem in my backyard. Yes, we did. And I remember the first year that we moved in, our backyard, nice little backyard, although it got ruined by the people who because we ended up, there was this wooden like fence that was there and was rotting. Yeah. We got rid of it and put up a concrete fence. CMU. But the guys who built it, these contractors were trash. We have the worst luck with contractors. They ruined our backyard by putting all the debris there. All the detritus was right there. But before that, right in the backyard was basically facing that water basin. Mm-hmm. And the first year, I remember there were a few times when frogs would end up in our backyard. And one time when ended up in my room, I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I was hearing like the croaking. And when I turned on the light, I ended up looking under my TV and there was a frog there. It scared the crap out of me.
Did it get up and go, hello, my baby, hello, my darling, hello, my rectangle gown?
That would have been fun. I would have been all for that.
No, but I don't know what size the frog was. But when I was a kid, I'm telling you, like the sidewalks would be covered in little black patches, and they were about the size of a quarter. Mm-hmm. There were little frogs all over. You could see them smashed through all the time. Like there was no way you would not smash them. So in the street, there were like dead frogs all over. It was so bad.
And speaking of smash that like button.
And smash Jesus Christ. If you like frogs, no.
If you like pizza frogs,
moving back to what I was saying about the house, though, and going back to your curse thing.
But did you like that though? That was good. Right?
That was a good thing.
That's good.
Yeah. I'll give you a B. So when we moved out, because they sold the house, and we had no choice, and that's when I moved to Granger, which is where I met Mark. So when we were moving out in the hallway, this house was built in the, I think, 1920s. It's still there. It's a gorgeous house. In the hallway, towards the end, there's, you know, like a cabinet for your towels and whatever, your, what do you call it? Whatever, toiletries. They were very deep. They were about 4 feet to 5 feet deep. So when we moved in, we never really we just threw our things in there. When we were moving out, my mom wanted to make sure we didn't leave anything behind. So she actually went in to get everything out.
Okay.
While doing this, all the way stuffed in the back, she found 2 little fabric pouches that were pink, but you could tell that they were like with age they decolorized, like they used to be red, but now they're just pink. They were about 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches.
Oh.
They were packed. They were about an inch thick.
Nowadays, people take Viagra to fix that problem.
She took them out to the porch with the neighbor who was helping us move, and she was like, "What the hell is this?" She opened it up. She tore the stitching off, and inside there was this beautiful little framed picture of a man. An old man in front of what seemed to be either a barn or just an old Edwardian house.
Ooh.
And black and white, little thing with a perfect glass frame with blue velvet and a silver frame around it.
Right, yeah.
There were some coins in there, some leaves cut into it, and some weird little juju in there.
Oh, that's interesting. That's total brujeria. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, well, that's the second time in my mom's life that she came across something like that.
Okay.
We don't know where it came from. We don't know what the story was behind it. We think that maybe it was, someone in the past did some, juju, left it there because they had to leave it there as part of the whole curse. And we're thinking that might be something to do with the house where we were living at. Mm-hmm. But we don't know what the extent is. All I know is that the coins were foreign. They were not American. They were. I don't remember what they were.
So they weren't pesos. They
weren't pesos. They weren't Mexican pesos. They were not Canadian, and they were not American coins.
Interesting. Maybe they were gypsies. I mean, in Bell Gardens, there
used to be gypsies. Yeah,
there were some gypsies. And gypsies still practice some old stuff. Particularly some of the older generation. And we're talking the 80s here. So this would have been. The older generation would have people growing up in the 30s and 40s.
This was around 88, 87, 88, something like that. Yeah, so who knows? But
so anybody in their 60s, 70s, 80s would have grown up somewhere in the 40s and 30s, and a lot of that stuff was very prominent. Yeah,
I'm not a big believer in curses and all that, but what is interesting about this case is there was a neighbor nearby, Irma, and I forget the name of the husband. And the daughter was Aida. Aida went to school with me, and they were there helping us move. And the husband was like, "Oh, those coins are very interesting. I'm going to keep them." Okay. And my mom was like, "No, just throw them away. There's like weird juju just throw them away. You don't want that stuff." He's like, "No big deal." He took them, and I'm not saying I believe in curses, but 2 years later, not only did Irma get in a car accident, and she was pretty bad shape, but then like a couple months after that, they divorced. They moved. Oh. And it's like their whole family just fell apart. And I don't know what it was because of the coins, but it's a pretty good coincidence.
My mom, I mentioned this in the podcast before, but my mom truly believed in that sort of stuff. I mean, she's a Christian, but mind you, she's a Mexican lady growing up. I believe she grew up in Jalisco. So, a lot of the pueblos there and stuff really truly believe in like the santeria and that sort of stuff. And so, I believe that my mom kind of grew up with these sort of stories, and mind you, some of the stories that interested me in that whole cursing, story that we're going to talk about sometime in the near future, where some of them were from Mexico, but the one that really got me going, and I might have sent it to you and Doyle through our text group, I think was actually an American kind of cemetery where a guy with a big crane found these things. Anyways, my mom truly believed that we were cursed by my aunt. And she believed that at a very young age, she believed that a lot of sort of the hardships that we grew up with.
Pause. Your mom thought that her sister cursed you guys?
No. My aunt was married to my dad's brother. So therefore,
by marriage.
Yeah, and so I mean, the story goes like this. My dad was the youngest in the family, but he was the favorite of my grandfather. But somehow, because he chose to marry my mom, he was kind of disowned for a little while. There was a lot of turmoil in our family because of it. But yet, they all moved came to America. And rather, my dad and my mom found each other here. But when he moved here, he still sort of had the support of my grandfather and his brother. But when he got married to my mom, there was a lot of like turmoil. Yet the lady that my uncle married, they accepted her, and they were able to get help from my grandfather with money. They ended up, this was like in the 70s, were able to get a lunch truck, and then they bought a little bit of property. And essentially my uncle, was rich. He's he's no Scrooge McDuck in the sense that he wasn't swimming in gold, but he was very well off. They had property in the city of Paramount, beautiful house. One of the first times I saw like 2-story house. And then they bought a house in Hacienda Heights when I was in high school. This is like the early 90s. Beautiful 2-story house in Hacienda Heights. He
I
owns
want to do
property.
brujeria.
Right. And so all of this, but here's the thing. But my dad, on the other hand, grew up with hardship. He grew up with a lot of challenges, and the family never really did anything to help him. My mom believed that my aunt, I don't want to say her name, but my aunt, because she passed away, had cursed her and my dad through some means. And she tells some more. I'm going to ask her and get more specifics, and maybe I'll touch more about this during our discussion on curses in general.
Yeah.
But she believed that. Now, here's the interesting thing: when my aunt passed away, we've always had hardships, but we've also had some good luck. Over time. I imagine that no curse is so strong that everything's going to go bad if you truly believe in curses. But but we did have a lot of challenges financially. We had a lot of problems. The one thing we never had challenges with staying together. Our very small families are still connected. But when she passed away, it sort of felt like
Relief.
I don't want to say relief because I want to put that completely on her. That doesn't seem fair. But
I'll say it.
It seems like financially things were a little bit better. They have gotten better, and while we're not rich or anything, there's more clear paths to sort of like some independence and some in our family which weren't there. And you can basically just say, oh well, that's because we're older and we all get sure that's valid.
Well,
but still, it's just still a lot to me.
Still, inflation and everything makes the cost of living go up. So
Right.
It doesn't really, justify it.
Right.
But still, like that's an interesting theory.
So I was in Mexico because I picked up my kid recently, and he's been with me for 2 weeks. I'm gonna be
Shout out
taking him back.
Hobster.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him back on Sunday. Now, when I was there,
Oh wait, I don't know if she watches, but Steph, you're still a ginger.
she is a ginger.
Gingivitis.
She is.
Anyways, go on.
Actually, she'd be interested in being in the podcast one of these days when she's around. So
Yeah, dude, totally.
And
She's fun.
she's really interesting. Okay, well, anyway, she named our kid after her uncle because she told me this really great story, and I maybe might save that story for later, but I'll give you the punchline a little bit. Her uncle was very much into tarot reading, into like ancient knowledge, that sort of thing, and he had a lot of books. And there was this one book with a big Z on it, and they didn't have the dust jacket, but I picked it up and I was looking at it, and it had all these great little it was almost like instructional on how to read palms and how to do tarot. Astrology, even had some of the old philosophers.
I tried learning to do tarot. I have the books. I have my tarot cards.
I'm going to show you this book. I think this book you will find very interesting. I'll bring it next time. I've been meaning to, so maybe the next time we record, I'll show it to you.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Well, this book, it's called I want to say it's either Zoltar or Zoltan. It's some weird name like that.
Zoltar is the card reader from Big, so it might be Zoltar because I think that's based off actual.
I bookmarked one of his because there's a series of books that are kind of out of print, and these are from the 40s. This particular book is out of print. If you want to get a hardcover of it, it's like $80-$90. I happen to be lucky that she lent me.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'll definitely show it to you. My whole thing is I want to digitize it at some point and be able to reference it because it's a fun read. I mean,
you have one of those wands, huh, to digitize.
Well, actually, no. Genius Scan is an app.
Well, yeah, you also have you could do PDF with your regular iPhone.
Yeah.
But I thought you had a wand that you can do that. Or was that Mark?
Really?
I think it was Mark.
That's interesting.
I think it's Mark. He had one where he could just go like this and it would just scan whatever.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
But that's cool, man. That's
okay.
Cool.
So, but here's the thing that I'm trying to get at is that this book had like people like Saint Germain. I'm sure you've heard of Saint Germain. He was like this old from the 16, 17, or 1700s. Supposedly he'd lived for
immortal
500 years. Who knows?
Allegedly.
One of the things that she told me about was that he would do tarot readings that were very accurate, and she told me this kind of great story where she had a
the uncle, not Saint Germain.
I would say again.
The uncle.
The uncle.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
The uncle. Just to clarify.
Sorry about
We're not
that.
talking about Saint Germain.
Her uncle.
Comme Saint Germain.
So maybe let me just tell the quick story. Then I'll shorten it. He said she had a suitor, somebody that wanted to marry. The families over there in Mexico, especially in these times in the 80s, they were very tight knit, and you wanted to marry off your kids, almost like in dynasties where you wanted to marry them off with the people who were going to provide them the most access to wealth. And it turns out that Stephanie grew up with family that had some wealth, and so she was a good prospect is what it was. And so, but she was also a very good looking young girl, and so this guy really wanted to be with her, and the family were really all for it. But when she moved over here to she was American, but she lived in Mexico. Then she moved back to America. They broke up, but he had proposed to her before they left. They were pretty young too when this happens. I don't know the exact ages, so I'll get that for later. But he claims, oh, I'm going to kill myself because, you left me and I don't want, So when she went back, he kept on wanting to kind of meet with her and talk to her. And she kept on postponing and putting it off. Finally, she was convinced to go and talk to him. So her uncle takes and drops her off at the grandma's house of this guy. And so then right before they left, the uncle was going to do a tarot reading for her. And the idea is that when you do a tarot reading, you're supposed to touch the cards after you shuffle them. And then that's supposed to be kind of your connection to it. So whatever they do with the cards next are connected to you because you touched them.
Yeah.
But they didn't have enough time, so she leaves. The story goes is that he decided to do the tarot reading without her being there. So he puts out the cards and he instantly calls her and says, I need you. He goes, I need you to pack your stuff. I'm going to go get you right now. And so the uncle goes to go get her, and she leaves. And it turns out that the reason why was in his tarot reading, he realized that someone was going to take her. Someone was going to kidnap her. It turns out that the guy that, she went to go talk to had a plan where two of her friends were going to come over in a truck and kidnap her and take her so that they can force to marry her. Because in Mexico at this time, if you get married, at that time it was illegal to get divorced. And so if they got married, then they would have to been sanctioned by the grandma. And again, remember, she came up with money. So in other words, there would be little recourse to leave.
That actually did happen to my aunt back in the 50s. She was in Culiacan. Mm-hmm. She was walking down the street, and this gentleman saw her and was really attracted to her. And just took her. Didn't say nothing, just took her. So she was missing for years until she finally showed up already with kids and everything and married. So my mom didn't see her sister, that sister, because she had a huge family, for years. And the man was very controlling, and he was just an asshole. And, rotten hell, dude. That guy died years ago. I remember.
That sucks, man.
Well, she died too, not a couple years ago. Rest in peace too.
Think of all of the
life that she lived.
He stole a life from her. And even though she had kids, and I'm sure
she was only 14 when this happened.
That's so sad, man.
Yeah, and he was in his 30s.
That is so sad.
Or late 20s, I don't remember. But yeah, I guess it's the thing that used to be pretty common.
Now, it's interesting because, part of the reason why Stephanie believed that, culturally speaking, if that happened, she would have been hosed. It's because, one, Mexico is heavily Catholic, and in Catholicism, divorces are not sanctioned. They are now now it's a little less taboo, but there's still places where it's really frowned upon. And if you get divorced, you're essentially a ruined person, especially if you're a woman. But in Mexico at the time, it was illegal, and so for her uncle to have kind of saw this in a tarot reading and decided to go get her and take her, and then she was able to confirm later from the guy.
He admitted it.
He admitted it. Yeah. Here's the funny funny thing. Because Stephanie's the type of person who always reconnects with people over Facebook and so when she moved back here from Phoenix here, the guy apparently is in LA somewhere, and he reached out to her because he's always been attracted to her, even though he's married. And so he said, "Oh, you were the one that got away," and blah, blah, blah. She told him, "Hey, I have a question for you. Do you remember that day that I went to your house and I left abruptly with my uncle?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Can you tell me, was something going to happen?" She didn't lead anything. Yeah. And the guy said, "Well," he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, she played it off as she got a bad sense. She goes, "I got a bad feeling and I just was uncomfortable." He goes, "Well," he goes, "the truth is I wasn't going to do anything bad to you. I wanted to marry you. I was going to, me and my friends were going to take you, and we were going to take you somewhere, and I was going I was going to marry you, and therefore you were going to have to stay with me, and we would have made it work out because I love you, and you're the person that got away. And she's like, oh, and she could laugh about it now, but she said, she told the uncle, like, or rather she told him about the uncle reading the tarot and seeing that that's why he came and picked her up so abruptly. So,
then she laughed it off. You almost kidnapped me.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's unfortunately that's kind of what it was because that's kind of the capacity of people, man. If something bad doesn't happen to you, you can sort of like there's like a disassociation.
Imagine, yeah, no,
yeah.
I know
the part that I left out that I just remembered was as they were driving away. I think she saw the truck that was there, and she saw him talking to somebody in the back. And when he saw her leaving, he looked really disappointed and upset. So they kept on trying to call her, and she didn't pick up, and didn't talk to him for years. And so I don't know. All of this is to say that dude, there's some weird powers in the universe. I don't know. I know that I put myself off as like really just empirical in terms of science and wanting to. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I do put a lot of trust in empirical studies and wanting to sort of understand the world that way. But then things like that happen, and I'm very curious.
See, that's why I always have my wife is always like, well, I'm atheist, I don't believe anything, right? And then we kind of got into a small argument about it because she's like, well, you do believe, and I go, no, I have faith. I do believe in something out there. I just don't believe in like the lines that of religion, Catholicism, Christianity. I don't believe in any of that because it's all flawed. I do believe because of incidents like that. Mm-hmm. There's too much little like serendipitous accidents that happen where it's like there has to be something. For instance, even if it's minute, even if it's really, really small. Jesus Christ, what was the one that happens? Like, doesn't it happen to you where you're thinking about something and all of a sudden it becomes, it shows up or it trends on you see it on you like, what the hell? You never typed it or anything. For instance, real quick, please. So we just showed The Hangover on Sunday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. On Sunday, I just played The Hangover for my son for the first time.
Okay.
We had a barbecue and we were playing it in the yard, and we loved it all that. And the first time we never looked it up or nothing. It was on my personal server, so we looked at it. I have all the movies. We looked at it, and then that's it. I never looked it up. And then, funny enough, that Flo Rida song that closes it at the end.
Yes.
My wife, it played for her. Now, like on her phone, she's like, "What the hell? That's weird." She hadn't heard that song in a long time. Mm-hmm. And then after that, when the Pope died, it's a circle. I got a meme. I got a meme on my phone where they're doing the last scene of The Hangover, where they're like, "Oh, I found the camera." And they're looking at it, and they go, "Oh!" And the credits play. Well, someone replaced all the pictures of the night of The Hangover with AI and not AI pictures of the Pope doing funny stuff, like being a DJ, hanging out with chicks, and doing all this other stuff, and like kissing some man on the lips. Like, it was just like a lot of funny things like that. And the Flo Rida song was playing. Now, I never looked it up, and it's weird how the Pope dies. That scene is reused for a movie that hasn't really been popular in a while now.
Right.
And we just saw it on Sunday, and then these two incidents happen. That's some sort of kismet, isn't it? Or, I mean, it might be just coincidence, but that's two incidents that happened right after 3 days of us watching the movie on Sunday.
you can like stuff like that. You can sort of almost like explain like that. There's always
it's
like,
just a coincidence.
Our phones are listening to what we're listening to, and somehow maybe they heard.
We didn't have our phones with us. We were outside grilling.
Okay.
The TV was outside.
Okay.
So I had no microphone or nothing. Oh, you had yours though.
Did you have like a watch?
I had my phone. Yeah.
You had your phone, but you had.
But I haven't got anything about The Hangover.
No, I wasn't because I don't want this thing to smell.
Okay.
So I had it charging.
Interesting.
Actually, I don't wear my watch in the house. When I get home, I take it off, I put it on the pad, and I walk away.
Yeah.
I only use it when I'm out.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I mean, it's just little things like that it's just
things like that
little
are
situations that happen.
Like, okay, I have a friend who always tells me, she says that there are no coincidences, and she will often tell me like, "Hey, I was just thinking about this, and then you called me and told me about it. I was just thinking about this, not like, but like a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever time frame." And that's I maybe there is some synchronicity that goes on in our lives between ourselves and sort of things that we like. I mean, I think I've made the case once. I could never find it again. I can't find this study or this thing, but where there was this idea that around the time of 9/11, there was this like collective kind of energy that people put out in some way, and somehow that sort of kind of like symbiotic that sort of synchronicity of feelings leads to some sort of like global shift in things, because we're at the core of everything we are besides water, we're energy, right? I mean, look at the connection between our brain and our body, and it's all electrical impulses that shoot out that make our fingers move and whatever. And when our hands get amputated, it's the reason why it hurts, because our brain is trying to send energy or electricity into them, and it's not there, so it hurts. The phantom limb, if you will.
The Phantom Menace.
Phantom limb, shut up. And so so there are no coincidences. I don't know. So I can understand something like that. I don't know that I always fully believe it. But
We were doing the spirit bomb for Goku that day, 9/11. That's why the energy was.
Yeah.
No.
So speaking though, by the way, of like this idea, like for example, I mean, it's sad that if you were like kidnapped and you got married, and because Catholicism doesn't let you get a divorce, therefore the rest of your life is going to be with this person. And that's exactly what happened. She accepted him as her husband. She had kids with him, and I'm sure when he died, she mourned him. And I it's a sad tragedy.
And all the kids were all messed up, by the way.
I believe it.
My cousin George actually came when I was a baby here in East LA, and he used to get in fights. Like he was bipolar. He actually tried to kill his mom and her father.
Oh, sure.
He got like lynched and run out of the town, and in Culiacan he was not allowed back. He made enemies everywhere he went, and he died about like 10 years ago. So
well, yeah, I mean, you grew up in a family where dude, okay, I know that the word micro, like aggressions and micro feelings, all this stuff, like it's like an Adam mode kind of idea, because people use it to sort of discredit any type of social justice and so whatever. But I do believe that there are just some things that we don't say outwardly that just happen when you're in a loving family. For example, there's like these like things that you don't articulate, but you show this kind of like sense of safety. So as a kid growing up in a family where mom and dad love each other, and mind you, there's always going to be little arguments here and there, but when you see them resolve, there is a passive learning that's happening, and in that sense there are some things that you're feeling, and so a lot of who you are is shaped not just by your own nature, but also by the nurturing of like
your
direct
upbringing,
and indirect. Okay, indirect in the sense like like watching two people who love each other figure hard things out.
I love you.
Love you too, buddy. And watching that in some way that your kids learn it. Now, this guy grew up in a family where the mom felt probably this resentment towards this father who kidnapped her, and most of the time there was probably these underlying microaggressions between them, and so of course he's going to grow up feeling detached and not well bonded and not well attached, and all of these things lead to sociopathy and this disassociation. And dude, I'm sure the guy was a terrible person.
My Aunt Rita had tons of kids, and out of all of them, 3 of them were really screwed up. 3 of them were really screwed up. One of them died. The other 2, one was actually diagnosed as bipolar. And she's like, whatever. And then there's another one that's just, he's a vile gentleman.
So in these notes that Doyle gave us, because Doyle's still passing off notes, he actually talked, he says, many people think the worst atrocities in human history have been caused by people doing evil in God's name. And his opinion is that he thinks the worst atrocities have actually been caused by people trying to repress someone else's faith. And he says Hitler, Stalin, Mao, because they all acted to repress the faith of another group of people. And that may be well and true. But I disagree that those were the worst atrocities. Yes, what Hitler did to the Jewish people was terrible, and what he did to the world was terrible. And yes, what Stalin did to his own people was terrible, and what Chairman Mao did to the Chinese people were terrible. But if you really, really look at the atrocities that were done in the names of spreading Catholicism and Christianity and Islam, it by far outweighs any of the evils these 3 people have done together. And the reason I say that is because we cannot account for the cultural things that these things have injected into society, like not being able to divorce when you kidnap somebody. I'm not saying that everybody got married because they were kidnapped, but the fact that it even happened to 1 or 2 people, and we have examples of it, I guarantee you we can multiply that by 20. And it happened a lot more than we think. And therefore, because of that, you can put that on the feet of religion, because religion wasn't there to promote the safety of these people. The religion was there to repress them. So I would argue, and I wish Doyle was here to argue back, but I would argue with him that no, that I think people have done way more evil, not just in the name of God, but in the name of faith and holding on to this into religion. And I would love to hear people's opinions on it. I maybe I'm wrong. I don't feel I'm wrong. I mean, I have a lot of examples from it, and so that's my belief.
We should touch base on this a little more thorough next time with a little more time and prep.
Sure.
And we should sit down and actually use some of these notes because he did give us great notes. Doyle, great job.
Shout out, buddy.
And he has some great information here, but I don't know, we ran out of time.
Well, it's a lot to read, and we're not going to read all of it.
It's a lot.
But I can tell you,
it's good.
He, for example, he did outline some, like, for example, the Spanish Inquisition, and that absolutely is true.
No one expected the Spanish Inquisition.
For about, 350 years.
No Monty Python? No? Okay.
For about 350 years, there was a what you call a program, a movement to look for heresies, anything that was a heresy. But a lot of people believe that it was politically minded. Mind you, right now you can see examples of this sort of kind of idea that, okay, let's be honest. Like, let's look at someone like Donald Trump, and this is probably where we're going to get like maybe flagged by people. But here's the thing: Donald Trump is not a Christian.
No, he's not.
And I'm sorry, we can see clear examples. You would have asked me around the time that Home Alone 2 came out, where he made his like stupid cameo, and asked me, do you think that this man, Donald Trump, is a Christian? I would have told you even then, he is not a Christian.
No.
The guy, objectified his own daughter. That's fact. That's not an opinion. That's fact. He objectified her. Whether he molested her, that's what we can debate, because there is no proof that he did. But he absolutely objectified her. There's videos of him objectifying her to The View, and also like just random recordings where she's sitting on his lap and he's talking about how beautiful she is, but not just how beautiful, but how sexy. I'm sorry, but a father should never call his daughter sexy.
That's gross.
Especially while she's sitting on your lap. You can say, wow, you are beautiful. I would never call my daughter sexy, because you know what? That word sexy is intentional. Okay, so let's just get that part out of the way. He is not a Christian, and yet he has used Christianity to gain favor and gain support. And the Christian, there's a large Christian contingency that have eaten it up, and they've even gone as far as justifying that when he got attempted to be assassinated, he survived by the hand of God, and therefore in some way,
and his ear grew back.
Yeah, right. That's a weird part about all of this, and somehow he has been touched by God, and but you only have to look at all the bad things that are happening in his name, in Donald Trump's name, that he is not a Christian. And my point is this: is that the Christianity can be co-opted, has been co-opted for evil.
Yes, it has.
At least for bad intentions.
Now, let me touch base real quick on the Trump assassination attempt real quick. He did not get shot in the ear. Now, a lot of people are saying that, it's a conspiracy. There was no assassination attempt. No, there was an assassination attempt. It failed miserably because the guy was a terrible shot or whatever it was. Damn it. But he did get injured, but it wasn't by the bullet. If you look at the video, he gets kneed by one of the Secret Service people. When he comes up and he has blood in his ear, it's from his mouth. He has blood coming out of his mouth.
Really?
Yeah, look at it. He has blood in his teeth and he has blood gashing this way. So whatever it was maybe on the way down, it smeared on his face. And then he was like, oh God.
Okay.
But knowing that the cameras were there and being the person that he is, he threw up his, white power fucking arm up and he's like, fight for justice, because he knew he was camera ready. That's one thing I do give him. That turd knows how to work the camera. So that was the only part that actually happened. Then he wore the stupid maxi pad on his ear saying, oh, I got shot in the ear. Then a week later he takes it off and it's perfectly fine. No, because there was no bullet wound.
Now,
and I'll go fucking, yeah.
Well, let me just say this. Because I've not looked into it, I'm not like I'm the type of person, I'm not going to eat this up and be like, oh, that's true. And what I'm going to do then now is I'm going to go look it up. I'm going to see if I can find my own proof of it, and I'll make my own opinion. But when it comes down to it, here's my counter to that. Okay, when you're down on the floor, let's say you did get shot in the ear, and you're down on the floor, blood's going to run down, and it's going to go like, I forget what the there's an effect. Water is always going to try to find a certain path.
Yeah, gravity.
And so I think that, and it's happened to me where, for example, if my nose is bleeding, it's always going to go down in the same area because of whatever crevices or whatever. And same thing with the path of least resistance from your ear is going to be down these grooves and down into your mouth. So maybe that might have happened. I'm not saying that but I can see that being an argument for that. I can
see that too. But the thing is, the smear goes up in an angle this way, so it looks like it's spread this way instead of it being bloodied down.
Right.
Especially when you get cut, it is going to trickle, but it's going to also be a thick trail. This thing was a smear up.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that I'm just looking at the video, I'm looking at the pictures, and that's the only conclusion I can come to.
Right.
I don't know. I may be wrong.
Yeah. No. Some of the interesting conspiracies about all of that. One of them was that the shooter himself was actually set up by the Trump or by some, because the funny thing is this shooter tried to kill our president to be, and yet he disappeared off the news, and then the right will say, well, that's because the legacy media didn't want to cover it and deify Trump, and then the left is going to say, well, no, it's because the guy was set up, and who knows, man. I'm curious as to
truth?
What happened to this guy? Where did he come from?
Yeah, it's so weird.
I mean, the guy.
It's completely forgotten.
I mean, was the guy pro-Trump, anti-Trump? I mean, he tried to kill him, so clearly he was anti-Trump. But was he? I don't know.
But the thing is, it was reported that he was a MAGA supporter. He had the hats, he had everything, he had the flags at home and everything else. But then why would he do this? It's just strange.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. I don't think we'll ever know, especially not now, because Donald Trump controls our Department of Justice. He controls, people are genuinely afraid of him. Like when you hear politicians talk out against him, they're scared of him.
Yeah,
because
You are a rude, terrible person.
and because what, all of the weaponization that he used to say that the government was doing against
is
him,
what he's using.
it's what he's using, and he does it with such blatant resolve that there's just no hiding from it. It's crazy to me. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
What about the whole TikTok getting banned thing?
That was him who caused
yeah.
it. That was him who caused it because he got mad that he got punked by TikTok, and one of his little rallies, no one showed up, and he got mad about that. So that's why he did the whole thing. And then when he was coming back, he realized I can use TikTok to help me. So he loves TikTok, or however he says it. And all of a sudden he's like, I don't know nothing about it, when he's the one who caused it. Also, a lot of the executive orders.
That message when it came back was saying thanks to President Trump.
He did that on purpose.
He did
that on purpose.
The thing is, I don't believe that Donald Trump placed 4D chess. He's not.
No.
He's not up there planning.
I don't even think. He's an opportunist. He can't even play checkers.
He's an opportunist, and when he sees an opportunity, he takes it. Mind you, you only have to see his business record to see that he is not a very good businessman. Yet he has the luck, and he has the audacity and the lack of shame in order to push his agendas through, and that's why he's always been lucky. He finds money, but he's never able to hold on. He basically cuts and runs every sort of endeavor he's ever had financially. He runs away from it.
Every single one.
And the failing.
Trump University, Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump Airlines, Trump Casinos,
Towers,
Trump Towers.
A lot of them failed.
Trump Bible.
Oh yeah,
Trump Bible. You're shaking the camera.
the Trump Bible. My goodness.
That thing is
Wow.
just pathetic.
And-
And made in China. It's made in China.
No,
Everything. And then the funny part is with all these tariffs and all that, and he's striking out all these deals, he's going, these were bad deals, but if you look into it, they're all deals that he made on his first term. He's just now doesn't want to admit it, and he's just, I don't know, he's an idiot at the most. And the worst part is his supporters will support him no matter what. Like he said famously the first time around, it's unbelievable. He can shoot someone in the middle of downtown Manhattan and no one will bat an eye, which is true. That's how I feel it is. He does so much damage, but his supporters will go to war for him. I don't get it. I don't know.
yeah, it's basically he is a cult leader. People have in the same way that Hitler had people believing his sort of truth. Okay, here's the thing. I think I saw what's his name? Al Gore just did some stump speech or something. I forget, where he rallied against Trump, and he said it actually in a really elegant and eloquent way, where he said, "Look, I know that it's not always a popular thing to try to compare somebody to Hitler, because Hitler is evil, full stop," is what he said. Mm-hmm. However, he said that one of the hallmarks of Nazism was to alter your what is true and what is not true. And it's true. That's right. You look back to the movement from the 1920s, 1930s. We've talked about this before, but the short of it is this: after World War I, Germany was heavily sanctioned and punished for World War One.
Yeah.
All the countries, and you know, the what is it, the Treaty of Versailles, there was a lot of money. And so when Hitler grew up, he grew up in a time of growing resentment towards the rest of the world for that reason. So he gained some small popularity talking about how you needed to make Germany great again. You know, and
Sounds familiar.
yeah, and all of the nationalism, and that's what it was. It was nationalism. Was that in order to bring back fairness, because Germany was being treated unfairly. They've already paid the price. Blah 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 blah. So he did the thing in I forget exactly when it happened, but he did something called the Beer Hall Push, where he went before people and he started what he thought was a revolution, where he was telling people we need to revolt, and there was a small riot that happened.
It was his January 6th.
Yeah, but he ended up the government was able to repress it. He went to jail for it. Mind you, had he left the city bounds, he would have actually been put into federal prison and he would have gone in for a lot longer. But because he didn't and he stayed in that little town where all of this happened, he got a year. He only stayed for about like 6 months or 7 months or something like that. So during that time, he wrote, you know, Mein Kampf, the book that sort of
his struggle.
Yeah, and in that he realized that he wasn't going to be able to create a revolution. Instead, what he was going to do was start a political movement and do things through politics. And his word was he was going to use democracy to destroy itself. And that's exactly what he did. First thing he does is when he comes out, he gains the favor of the people. He gets voted in. He starts dismantling a lot of the constitution of Germany. He started removing a lot of the freedoms. All of it was by altering people's belief of what is true and what isn't true. What do you think is Donald Trump's doing right now?
Same thing.
What has he been doing for years? Fake news.
He's taking every step from Nazi Germany and just regurgitating it and putting red MAGA hats on it.
And the saddest thing is that like a lot of historians, and even like just random people who just love history, are seeing this with like some abject horror, because you know, they see some of the things he does and they know the analogy to Nazism and to the times. And yet there's nothing that we can do to stop it.
Nothing.
And it's like, I still keep on believing that we're going to be able to get through this. And, you know, in 4 years, we're going to be able to vote another person in. And right now the large push to get him out is going to be strong. But dude, I'm scared, man. I'm scared what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm waiting for him to create some large national crisis that is going to let him remain in power, because he's already corrupted the DOJ. He's already got rid of a lot of our little institutions where things were fair. I'm scared, man.
Yeah.
Generally. We're going to jail, all y'all. We're going to jail.
I'm right behind you with all the things I post against that turd. But anyway, thank you for joining us.
Is that
Sorry to end it in a sad note. Yeah, that's time. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. It's just one of those things. We're done. Enrique, anything else you want to add before we go?
I like your sticker of Fozzie and Kermit the Frog.
You don't like the other Kermit?
Why do?
No, this is Why Do Birds Suddenly Appear?
I don't know, I was singing the wrong song. Dang, I hope you were going to
Rainbow Connection.
You killed me.
That
was the song I was going to try to sing. And
Why do birds? David Allen Greer. Shout back. Anyway. Well, I want to say first, thank you to Undercity and the Nerds for letting us borrow their studio, even though it looks like we're in a stand-up comedy right here with this in the background. You know, what kind of gym does Jesus go to? CrossFit.
What's the trouble with Trump? What's that about?
What's it all about? No, it does look like it.
Yeah,
anyway.
it really does.
Is this real? Is it real? Yeah, it is. It is real. Huh? I'll be damned. Anyway, so
he
yeah,
is damned.
I just wanted to say thank you to you guys. You guys rock. Thank you for the new subscribers. We actually have a few new subscribers on YouTube.
What? No.
So it's I mean, not many, but I mean, there's more than the 4 we usually have.
Why would you guys? Why? Thank you, but why?
I don't know. It's actually going up. So hey, Isaac, thank you for joining us on this weekday afternoon.
I appreciate all the shaking that
Evening.
you've been doing.
I know the camera's been shaking, so it's going to be all funky, but it's take a picture of this so you can see how we recorded?
I already did.
Oh, okay.
I'm about to do it right now. Look, we are geniuses here at the Ouch
Genius!
Podcast. We know how to run. Hey, here, go for it.
Go.
Throw up them deuces, bro. All right, there we go. And
Deuces, oozes.
and you guys can see like what's behind the camera. Now, obviously, we are geniuses here in how we do things. That we're
Well, hopefully this will come together and let's see what happens. But that's about it. Anything else you want to add before we go?
no. This is fun. Let's keep it going, guys. Let's do this. Cheers,
Rock the vote. Enrique. Isaac, anything else?
Doyle. Anything, Doyle?
No, I just think this was a pretty good episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Doyle, sorry we didn't get through all your notes, but you know how the show goes. We will be touching base on this because there's some very interesting stuff on here that I do want to talk about. And actually, some of this leads into the other podcast that I'm trying to do, the religion one that I'm trying to do with my son. So maybe we'll put a pin on that. And remember, screw Trump. Peace. Oh, and the banana thing, I guess.